So I'm going to take you through the study itself. You can follow along in the booklet. Go with me. Here's my little clicker. Thank you. And here we go. These are our sponsors all over the world of journalism, left, right, center, in the middle as well, and even the trade desk and institutions like that observed kind of the same thing that we're seeing in terms of shying away from news. And let's take a look at the opportunity. So there was this whole kind of notion, of course, quality news. So if you look at technology, and in the days of technology, that we would always talk about the virtuous cycle and the vicious cycle. And there was a vicious cycle that kind of got ingrained here, which is quality news tackles hard-hitting issues. Brands say, I don't want to do that declines. Newsrooms lose resources. Journalism becomes more clickbaity in order to survive. Misinformation and malinformation really thrive more rather than less. And so the intent of brand safety people, exactly the opposite happens, and quality journalism suffers the most. So that was kind of what has been setting in here, and I think all of the publications kind of observing this happen. So we want to change that to a classic virtuous cycle, right? We start here with quality news, tackling hard-hitting advertisers, supporting the news, benefits. I mean, they do it, number one, because it's a good business decision. News gets monetized more. Newsrooms have more resources. Newsrooms have more freedom so they don't have to do clickbaity, horrible stuff. Quality journalism and top-tier brands thrive, and that is the virtuous cycle that we love so much in technology that we're trying to restore here. And this whole idea of brand safety just got it expanded from what would be a logical notion that Boeing doesn't want its ads next to plane crashes, or nobody wants to support drug dealers, into a kind of a more ever expanding notion of blacklists and blocklists in terms of what happens with the media. And it became a big task to make sure that advertising doesn't appear next to good journalism story. And we're not talking here in this study, we're not really talking about social media. We're really talking about journalism and basic news stories. So the first question I think that anyone should ask is there an interesting, sizable news readership population, and what does it look like? So I always tended to classify the world as news junkies, sports junkies, entertainment junkies, and if you cared about none of these, couch potatoes. In the U.S., about 50% are couch potatoes. And here, if you take a look at it, what we classified as news junkies are about 25%. That means that they are regularly and repeatedly checking news multiple times a day, actually about 5. And then there are 10% who like news but don't like sports and entertainment. So you can only reach that audience by advertising on news. So if you kind of look at where does the UK stack on this, actually fewer entertainment junkies than the US, and a little bit more on sports, and about the same on news, 25% classified as news junkies. And so what did we say? It's an average. They check news an average of 4 times a day to qualify. You read an average of 5 articles. And then let's look at, here's the general population, and here are the news junkies. So they have a belief in the media they consume. They tend to be, if you look 59 versus 67, more Gen X. They tend to be more employed. They tend to be more university grads, 35 versus 44. They tend to have more disposable income, 31 general pop and 42 news junkies, and they tend to be more 50K earners. So it does seem to me that being active, earning, and educated, things that we occasionally want in advertising, do seem consistent with this audience of being a news junkie. So then we did the study. And part of this, working with Dritan, who's here from Harris X, was to design a rigorously scientific method to say, well, what is the impact of ads appearing in different news locations? And we did 22,000 interviews, and we took 6 different ads. We took 8 types of news content. An individual would only see one kind of news content and one kind of ad, and then we would create all of these monadic cells, collapse them, and compare them. And, it's really a definitive study, right, which we hope will provide decision grade analysis. People can take this to customers or clients. We can take it to our clients. And again, they were very well-known brands, as you'll see. And the ads, we chose them more or less at random. And the news stories were based on current topics. And so we asked people purchase intent, favorability towards the brand. Then we had a bunch of metrics: trustworthy company, cares about its customers, et cetera. And then we created an average score based on how well you think each word or phrase describes the brand. So what are the basic results? This is the single most boring study I've ever done because the results just come out the same, page after page after page of similar results. So it's safe for brands to advertise adjacent because regardless of topic, we didn't really see any brand impact. The ads places next to politics or crime perform as effectively and next to a positive business story or sports and entertainment. And we really didn't see, if we broke it down by the key demographic groups, we really didn't see anything. There's only one statistically significant difference, I think, in the whole study. And then you can see here, this was the format in which it was tested that people saw online. They saw the ad 2 times. We gave them a double dose of the ad, and we gave them a news story. We didn't really tell them what the purpose was. We showed it to them, and then we asked them questions, these questions. And you saw we took a crime story. Met Police is inadequate at investigating crime. We had a Farage story, a Starmer story, an inflation story, and then a business story, and then a sports story, and then there's entertainment, and then the same ads would appear across all the different content, right? All take that matrix we created of all the ads and all the cells and all the different stories. And then if you think of it in terms of like brand safe or not brand safe, this brand safety thing has so expanded that all of these stories might be considered brand safe. Business might creep over into safe, and sports and entertainment would be considered safe. So given this, you see kind of the systematic bias against advertising in these stories. They would be automatically blocked. All right, so what did we find? So if you look across, right, purchase intent, favorability, and the 8 metric ad, and this is where the boredom comes in. In the Middle East, it was 55% versus 68%. So if you averaged everything across everything, right, the Middle East story, it was 55% average purchase intent, 68% average brand favorability, 65% average, you'll see the sum of the individual metrics. For crime, it was 53-67. For Farage, 55-68. For Starmer, 54-70. For inflation, 54, 67, right? So what is all the fuss about, okay? And then in the business story, it was 55-69. Entertainment, 54-70. Sports, 55-71. So any differences across here was 67, right? Here we were at 66, 67, and 65. Any differences at all are minuscule, not really statistically or otherwise significant. So when you added it all up on the 8-metric average, not brand safe was 66%, brand safe was 67%, okay? So why are people pulling all their ads from this content over 1%? So then we, provided all of the breakdown, kind of more detailed about the individual stories across the ads, across purchase intent. And you can see, again, if you look at the average across topics, you look at the differences between entertainment, say, on purchase intent, on favorability. Again, there's nothing here that anybody is really going to write home about. So if you're a media buyer, you should be looking more at the CPM rates, more at the audiences and the targeted audiences of people who read the various stories, and less at this notion of being blocked out of the story altogether. You should be making normal business decisions about whether to purchase this or not. And if you look at people who follow it very closely, now it is interesting, the ads, and part of this may be some of the ads we chose, they do perform differently among different groups. So among news, among people who follow news very closely, the ads tended to get an overall average score, in the low 70s. If you look at it among Gen Z, these ads scored slightly lower at 68. So you don't see any difference across the different mediums. You just see that Gen Z scored slightly lower on these ads. Mums scored slightly higher, 74%, in the 70s. University degrees, a little lower than mums, really about 69. Interestingly, business people really liked, high earners really liked these ads, so they did particularly well. So if you notice, this is scoring almost an 80. And the one thing we did find was that high earners tended to be very positive about ads that appeared in business stories. And so that was the only statistically significant difference. I was talking to someone from what was Business Insider. They then became Insider, and now this was a good move to become Business Insider again, because it does appear that that was the high wage earners who read business stories did take away. Now that could be the mix of these ads, but it is the one statistically significant finding. Labor voters scored about 70% across the way. Conservative voters, 68%, a little tougher on that. Didn't like. Reform voters, 64%, right? A little lower on this set of ads. And that's pretty much it, right? So if you go through it, it's pretty simple, right? We did a large number of interviews. We looked at the brand safety. There are a couple of differences, like that might be logical, that if you got a good business related ad, advertise in business stories. But it really says that you should stop kind of a broad blacklisting of news, get back to evaluating the CPMs, and also feel, I think most importantly, when you go back to the cycle, feel positive about investing in news, and that the social responsibility here for your brand is not in avoiding news stories, it actually is in helping good journalism be monetized appropriately, and that is ultimately the social responsibility good in all this. All right, with that, thank you very much.